I've said it before and I'll say it again because it's awesome. I'm a swordsman, and this is my sword. Specifically, it is a rapier, and I use it for HEMA, which stands for Historical European Martial Arts. I actually competed in a tournament a few months ago. I'll put some footage up right here, probably. Um, I'd show you me kicking everyone's butt, but that'd be kinda unsportsmanlike, so you'll just have to see me getting stabbed, I guess. I totally didn't lose more matches than I won or anything. Anyway, this is probably the most gorgeous weapon in like all of history, and I make pretty cool things in Minecraft, so I thought that I would turn my own sword into a Minecraft build and hopefully teach you a few things about the history of this weapon along the way. Before I begin, I am no historian. The information that I'm giving throughout the course of this video is kind of stuff I pieced together in the way that made the most sense to me from like a ton of different articles. I have a few sources linked in the description for like the things that were the most consistent, like with the most relevant information, but a lot of it was just like one little piece of information there, one here, across tons of different places. So I don't have a lot of sources. Sorry, not a reputable educational source for your educational needs. If you're unfamiliar with what makes a rapier, they are long, thin, one-handed swords, mostly used during the Renaissance era, recognizable by their complex hilts. Some characters who use a rapier you may recognize are Zorro, Polnarf's stand Silver Chariot, Puss in Boots, and of course, Inigo Montoya. Across history, the rapier exists in the transition between classic medieval fighting on the battlefield and the gradual takeover of firearms. It all starts with weapons like the longsword or arming sword, which are capable of thrusting into your opponent, but are mostly designed for cutting. As people started to switch to pike warfare, two-handed swords of pure cutting swords became less useful, leading to the invention of the cut and thrust sword, not the rapier just yet. Cut and thrust swords were often the sidearms in a pike formation for when the wall of pikes fails. They also could have been invented simply because they're nimbler and more versatile, like a swashbuckler pirate type of fighter, using it with a buckler shield. Over time, swords became less and less useful on the battlefield with the slow emergence of guns, leaving cut-and-thrust swords more for dueling than large fights. This made them become longer, thinner, and lighter over time to better suit that goal. Then, since the hand was in so much more danger from the longer, faster blades, more complicated hilts emerged to protect the hand better, leaving us with the rapier we know and love, originating from Spain in the 1500s. By this point, while there were always odd records of it being used in battle, it was mostly a civilian weapon, something lightweight you can carry on your body without really needing a big gauntlet or shield to make it useful. They're actually only 2.5 to 3.5 pounds, which isn't much until you have to maneuver it with a fully extended arm for minutes at a time, which can make some muscles start to burn, trust me. Another interesting part about the rapier's history is how even with the swords themselves staying relatively the same, the culture gradually shifted towards more thrust-centric fighting, leading to shells and grates being added to old rapiers to avoid hand snipes through the front of the hilt, and eventually the cup hilt becoming the most protective design. In the end, the decline of the rapier is caused by the very trend of conveniences that created it. Rapiers became shorter and had smaller hilts purely for the sake of convenience, transforming into the small sword, so small and thin that some variations had no sharp edge at all, only a sharp point like a glorified nail. By the mid-1700s, the small sword had mostly replaced the rapier. The last thing I wanted to talk about was the different hilt types of the rapier, as I've incorporated as many as I can into this build. The first elaborate hilt to my knowledge is the ring hilt. Over time you can see a wide variety of ring numbers from 2 all the way to 7. Next is the Italian swept hilt, with counterguards sweeping down the hilt on the side opposite the rings. As thrusting became more common, hilt designs reflected a greater need to protect the hand from thrusts, with the Pappenheimer hilt appearing in Germany and the shell hilt appearing in Spain. This culminates in the Spanish finally inventing the cup hilt, practically, objectively, the most protective of all hilt types, although I'll gladly take a few extra stabs to the fingers for the sake of aesthetics since I'm not dueling anyone to the death anytime soon. Don't test me though. As for my cool spiral hilt, I have no idea if it has any historical precedent. I got my rapier from Darkwood Armory and chose it because it looked cool, but I can't really find historical examples. Before I show like a cool final look with shaders and everything, I want to say thank you all for getting me to 1,000 subscribers. It's crazy that we've gotten this far. For my 1K sub special, I'll be doing a Q&A video, and the Q&A post will be linked in the pinned comment below. I recorded like everything else in the video before I actually finished the build, so I thought I would come back and admire my handiwork a little bit. Maybe explain like a few of the references to the historical stuff I was talking about along the way. If you are a true OG fan of the channel, you recognize this is like literally one of my first ever videos. But we're not going to care about that right now. You can see it uses a lot of the same palette because like it's part of... You know, I've been thinking about this build for a long time. Let's just put it that way. I wanted to have like a wood thing right here. I chose mangrove. It kind of represents the handle, I guess, the grip. But it's a bit thick, obviously. And then of course we have the pommel down here. It was really difficult to get like all of the ratios correct. Like these like sweeping lines that are really hard to get right. This roof was meant to represent the cup hilt, and these overhangings are meant to represent the Pappenheimer hilt. These roofs over here with like the really weird bits, these are most meant to represent the shell hilts. So they have kind of like the ribbed shell thing. That's what I was going for. I think it looks okay. I don't think it's like super obvious that's what it is, but I think it looks good. And no, I will not be doing an interior for this place. This interior would be such a pain to do. You might have seen I was really like going layer by layer with the building. Turns out my building style, like my building process, is not very cinematic. So I had to build the entire thing, turn Lightmatica on, and then build it all again in flashback. It took me like 2 hours just to place all the blocks, layer by layer, which is like only like a fifth of the actual time I spent working on this thing outside of that, so not bad, but still, it was not fun. Anyway, I'm glad I got like an actual decent building project done right now because Vesselcraft SMP is coming up very, 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 very soon. So, some good practice for the SMP. Thank you for watching this video. I wanted to do something really special for my first video at 1,000 subscribers. So thank you for waiting a few weeks for me to get this out. And I'll see you in the next one.